So he's going to cut $1 trillion, and then we're going to get rid of all these tax scams that hammer against America, and we're going to raise $1 trillion of revenue. And our objective under Donald Trump is to balance this budget. And I'm telling you, you watch it, we're going to do it.
If you get savings from these DOGE cuts, are you going to give any of this back to the American people? We keep hearing about these DOGE dividends.
Well, think about it. Donald Trump announces the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple. His goal is to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay. I mean, this is someone who is focused on America. Let's drive down our waste, fraud, and abuse. I'll give you an example. Cruise ships. You ever see a cruise ship with an American flag on the back? They have flags of like Liberia or Panama. None of them pay taxes. None of them pay taxes. Every super tanker, none pays taxes. Alcohol, all foreign alcohol, no taxes. This is going to end under Donald Trump, and those taxes are going to be paid, and Americans' tax rates are going to come down. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. Balance our budget and cut our taxes. I mean, imagine a Democratic senator going against that. What planet are these people on?
Every single day, the new Trump administration is blowing to smithereens yet another facet of the Democrat deep state regime. What you just saw there was our brand new Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, announcing that it is Donald Trump's ultimate goal to officially abolish the IRS and replace income taxes with tariffs. It's all part of the stream of executive orders that are reshaping the entire federal government like never before. And it's only been a month. We're going to look and show you exactly how everything you need to know as the Trump train continues to steamroll Washington, leaving the Democrat Party in total and complete disarray. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday, marking the first official month of the greatest presidency of our lifetimes. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to celebrate with you the dawn of the new golden age that you made possible back on November the 5th. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'll be an absolute honor to have you as a regular part of our online community. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today. I promise, my promise to you is to make you feel smarter at the end. Our super chats, of course, are now up, so feel free to ask me your questions. It'll be my honor to answer them throughout the course of this broadcast. You can actually ask your questions in two ways. You can do it through our super chats, or you can become a member of our Courageous Patriots Club by clicking on that link below. You have access to all kinds of exclusive live Q&As and special content. Either way, it'll be my privilege to answer your questions throughout this live stream. We've never seen anything like this. That is how the ultra leftists over at the New York Times are depicting what has happened over this last month. We have never seen anything like this, like we've seen in the past 4 weeks. It's it's the month that literally remade the nation. You'll recall Lenin's maxim, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And in these last 4 weeks, officially commemorated yesterday on February the 20th, we have witnessed nothing less than an entirely changed nation, and with it, an entirely changed world. Politico reluctantly acknowledged the 1 month mark of Trump's presidency by mourning the loss of its taxpayer gravy train, the end of the millions of dollars that Politico used to get from USAID. And they wrote, quote, "Since January 20th, Trump has reshaped everything, and the workings of America's federal government from the workings of America's federal government to its relations with allies and foes overseas, from its approach to war and peace to its stances on trade and foreign aid, Trump has stretched the Constitution to its limits, upended historic law and order norms, transformed the conversation around deep-seated social issues, and he shows no sign of slowing down. There you go, Politico. See ya. Axios led with this headline: Trump's MAGA month transforms America. And the article begins, quote, President Trump's first month in office has exceeded the wildest dreams of even his most loyal supporters and the darkest nightmares of his fiercest detractors. Both groups can agree the America that Joe Biden left behind on January 20th is no longer recognizable, erased in 4 frenetic weeks by an empowered, implacable, and historically popular MAGA presidency. And that Axios report is absolutely right. Trump's popularity, the popularity of MAGA, is through the roof. His approval rating just keeps getting higher with every passing week. According to Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, Trump's approval rating among America's youngest voters between the ages of 18 and 39, is the highest of any group. 56% approval, a near 60% approval rating among America's youngest voters. Overall, he's at a 52% approval rating, according to Rasmussen, one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024. And for the first time in years, a plurality of voters believes the nation is headed in the right direction. By contrast, only 22% of voters approve of the Democrats. 22 freaking percent. That's a 30-point gap between President Trump's approval rating and the Democrats. I mean, it does not get more embarrassing than that. Congressional Republicans' approval rating, for that matter, is double that of the Democrats. In fact, nearly 70% of the country right now as we speak, 7 in 10 Americans cannot stand the Democrats. They despise them. And we can see this in the changing dynamics of the electorate. Voter identification is clearly trending dramatically towards the Republicans, unlike anything we've ever seen. Here's Harry Enton of CNN.
Trump and the Republican Party has changed the electorate. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at party identification, Democrats versus Republicans. You go back to 2017, 5 points more of the electorate was Democrats than Republicans. You go to 2021 when Joe Biden was starting out, look at that, 6 points more of the electorate was Democrats than Republicans. But look at what's happened in February of 2025. Look at this. Republicans, there are more Republicans in the electorate than there are Democrats. Republican +2. So Donald Trump and the Republicans have remade the electorate. They've turned some people over from being Democrats or independents to become Republicans. New folks have entered the electorate who are more Republican leaning. And so when you combine that with the fact that Republicans are really, really behind Donald Trump, all of a sudden you get a winning recipe whereby you break the normal rules of politics and give Donald Trump that positive net approval rating when he had pretty much a consistently negative one in term number 1. As I said at the beginning, he's copying Frank Sinatra, doing it my way.
You gotta love Harry. I mean, he's only right about half the time. Unfortunately, he does work for CNN after all, but he's brought back, single-handedly brought back the expression, holy moly, holy moly. That was leading up to the election. He always has a great turn of phrase, but he's absolutely right here. Republicans went into November 2024 with a +2 voter identification advantage, according to Gallup. And that voter identification is the single most accurate indicator for who wins the White House as well as Congress. So Trump went in with a +2 Republican electorate, according to Gallup. And how much did he win the popular vote by? +2. So this is the key indicator that we need to constantly keep our eyes on. And we're seeing it everywhere. Take a look at this. This is awesome. These are what you're going to see here. Yeah, excellent. These are the latest numbers coming out of the otherwise deep blue state of New York. Look at this, gang. The Republicans just gained 72,000 voters on Democrats in the month of January alone. The Democrats lost nearly 50,000 voter registrations in freaking New York. You heard that right. The Dems lost nearly 50,000 voter registrations in January, whereas Republicans gained over 23,000. That's a 72,000 voter registration swing towards Republicans. And Scott Pressler is reporting that we're just 89,000 registrations away from flipping Pennsylvania. Freaking Pennsylvania. If you don't know, it was just a few years back, Democrats had a 1 million voter registration advantage over Republicans. There are over 1 million more Democrats registered in Pennsylvania than Republicans, literally just a few years ago. When Trump first won Pennsylvania back in 2016, he overcame a Democrat advantage, registration advantage of 600,000. That, a lot of working class Democrats who had not yet changed their voter affiliation voted for Trump back in 2016. But now we're just 89,000 registrations away from actually flipping Pennsylvania officially red. And we're going to do it. It's just going to be a matter of months from now. It's absolutely astonishing. Remember, Pennsylvania is the new Ohio. Pennsylvania is the new Ohio. And then New Jersey will be the next. It will be the new Pennsylvania. And then I think it was Data Republican would say then Connecticut will be the next New Jersey. And then New York will be the next Connecticut. That's the trend we're seeing everywhere. It's absolutely astonishing. Voter identification registration is clearly trending Republican all across the country. By the way, if you want all these articles and all the data and the tweets and stats, just click on the link in the description below and you can get all of these articles and tweets actually emailed to you. It's a service we love to provide for you absolutely free, so you have all this data right at the tips of your fingers. But frankly, gang, we have not yet seen anything. Yesterday's 1 month mark was crowned with the confirmation of the final nail in the deep state's coffin. The one, the only Kash Patel was officially confirmed as the new FBI director. Let that hit you. Cash only, man. No credit, just cash. That confirmation alone, when you think it through, that's going to be enough to basically destroy the deep state at its very core, at least particularly in the way the deep state has been weaponized against American citizens, including first and foremost President Donald J. Trump. The FBI has been spying on him and harassing him and interfering in our presidential elections and politically imprisoning American citizens for years now. And all of that has officially come to an end in the last 24 hours. The very day that officially marked the official 1 month of Trump's shock and awe administration. Of course, Kash has consistently outlined a threefold vision for the FBI. First and foremost, he's planning on changing the location of the agency, relocating it most likely into the heart of a solid red state, and thereby changing the culture, the ethos of the agency to reflect more of a red state value. Secondly, he wants to break up and distribute their concentrated power. So that would involve breaking up some of the agencies and outsourcing them to other investigative bodies throughout the federal government, Homeland Security under Kristi Noem, or the Treasury Department and their investigative bodies. There's a possibility of breaking up the FBI into 4 or 5 agencies, with one responsible for counterintelligence, another one for counterterrorism, another one for complex white-collar crime, another one for cyber crimes. And thirdly, there's the essential component of transparency and declassification. So this has been a big thing that Kash has been promising for a while now. He wants to establish a 24/7 declassification office. So that would involve, of course, releasing Epstein's black book, releasing the files on the Kennedy assassination, which they're supposed to do. The CIA is supposed to do FBI, is supposed to do within the next couple of weeks, releasing the files on 9/11, aiming for greater transparency in government operations, but also exposing the FBI as what it has been over these last several decades an agency of the deep state in terms of how it's been harassing and imprisoning American citizens for their own nefarious political purposes, and exposed the various ways in which the deep state has undermined the democratic integrity of our republic. So we really are seeing the end of the old deep state, both domestically with Cash and the FBI, and internationally with Tulsi as director of the National Intelligence and her oversight of the CIA. It's pretty astonishing stuff. And again, we're just 1 month in. We're just 1 month. Oh, and let's not forget about the southern border. How dare we forget about the southern border? Here is White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
Border crossings, since the day he took office, are down 95%. I think it's almost impossible to even describe the scale and scope of that achievement. President Trump, within days of taking office, cut border crossings 95%.
95%. I mean, again, in literally 1 month. In just 1 month's time. I mean, I can't even get over the Trump administration in 4 weeks did what the Biden administration told us would take literally years. Who remembers Oklahoma Senator James Lankford? Who remembers that? You know that guy? There he is. Yeah, what a weird looking dude. Oklahoma Senator James, do you remember what bill this feckless rhino proposed just mere months ago? You remember that? It was the so-called bipartisan border bill. And we now know, thanks to DOGE, that whenever we hear this term bipartisan, it means a bill written by Democrats for Democrats with a rhino getting bought and paid for to sign on to it. Bipartisan always means Democrats buying and paying off Republicans. That's what bipartisan means. Bipartisan means a Republican was bought off. It was a bill that Joe Biden said he needed in order to do literally anything at the border. It was a bill, again, let this hit you. It was a bill that actually allowed for 8,500 illegal border crossings every single day. If that bill had passed, it would be law for our nation to allow 8,500 illegal migrants crossing the border every single day before the border could even be considered to be closed. By the way, President Trump, if you don't know, that 95% reduction, he's reduced that number to its lowest level ever, just to a couple of hundred a day. And those are attempted illegal border crossings. Virtually all of them are caught and apprehended by Border Patrol. But, and again, I need to underscore this, if the Republican James Lankford got his way, we would be allowing upwards of 8,000 border crossings, illegal border crossings per day, every single day, before Homeland Security would even consider closing the border. And is it that bad enough? The actual border shutdown wouldn't be activated unless Mayorkas, the former feckless Secretary of Homeland Security, said so. There was no automatic tripper to shut down the border. It was the Homeland Secretary. It was the Homeland Security Secretary's sole discretion, which, of course, he already had. Biden and Mayorkas could have shut down that border completely at any point, at any second of their tenure, without so much as a smidgen of congressional approval. That's the whole point of executive power. And to make matters even worse, perhaps the single most devastating provision in that ridiculous bill, sponsored by a Republican, is that it would have given the utterly feckless Mayorkas and asylum officers the unilateral authority to directly grant asylum to illegals without congressional approval. I mean, this is the utter sure. And then Republicans wonder why nobody votes for them. I mean, this is the charade that sellout Republican rhinos were engaging in just mere months ago. Shenanigans, by the way, they would be really happy if you forgot all about. Everything President Trump is doing at the southern border confirms it was all a lie. Every bit of it, every syllable out of the mouth of CNN was a lie. Every single thing that was pushed during that whole bill debate and the fiasco that followed its the fallout that followed from its collapse. Every legacy media's assertion that it was Trump who's responsible for breaches at the southern border because he personally killed that bill. All of it was a total abject lie. A lie. It wasn't misinformation. It wasn't disinformation. It wasn't inaccurate. It was a blatant, evil lie. We did not need a stupid, corrupt, amnesty-granting border bill. We simply needed those in charge of the executive branch, whoever the hell they were. We still don't know who was actually running the show back then. We just needed them to do their damn job. We just needed those DEI hires in the White House to do their damn job. That's it. Trump is proof that congressional and senatorial Republicans never, not at any point ever, had to capitulate to the Democrats. It was all a complete and total lie. And now Trump's going for all of it. I mean, wait till you see the latest executive order he just signed. Gang, this is an absolute game changer for virtually all the rogue agencies, and the whole of the federal government is going to absolutely blow you away. But first, as you know, we're all about MAGA and MAHA here on this channel, Make America Great Again and Healthy Again. And I got to tell you about my personal experience with the Elixir Mixer. Now, one of my favorite team managers came to me and said that he and his wife had been taking an all-natural, all-in-one supplement that was helping them tremendously. So he thought it would be a great idea for me to try, being that I'm getting more serious and proactive about my health. I love biohacking. So I did. I tried it out. As you know, I take lots of supplements. And so I tried it. And I got to say, this is my second month on it. And now I see why so many others are spreading the word about it. The Elixir Mixer is absolutely amazing. Now, if you scrutinize the ingredients all the way down to the other ingredients at the bottom, you could clearly see this very high quality formula, completely made from only whole food sourced ingredients. My mental energy has increased. My physical stamina is improving. My sleep has gotten better. My appetite has gone significantly down. I kid you not. This thing is amazing. I don't battle snack or carbohydrate cravings like I used to. I mean, I'm definitely feeling leaner, stronger. I like to say this. I notice it when I don't take it. I notice it when I skip a drink of this. I mean, I'm looking forward to my next annual exam results. So I'm confident I'm going to see some improvement in my vitals and diagnostics. I could not recommend this more. I love it. All factors and benefits considered, this is a bargain. But to make it even better, I want to make sure you get the special extra discount on your orders. So that special code when you order it is Steve17, Steve17. Use that in the last checkout step and you get to save even more on your personal monthly supply. So this one is one I guarantee you're going to take for life. And if you got a spouse or partner, just double up in your quantity so you're both supplied with the best your body can get. Make sure to click on that link below to get your own Elixir Mixer. Use promo code Steve17 for an awesome discount. Click on that link below right now.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big balls.
Big balls.
Big Balls, who worked for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big balls online.
Big balls here.
that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned big balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about big balls in charge of American air traffic control?
I mean, I'm sorry, but DOGE was worth it just for that, just to get that montage. I mean, just to watch the legacy media literally troll themselves. I mean, seriously, nothing proves just how incapable they are of seeing reality than that. With one member of the legacy media after another, just completely oblivious to how merciless they're being trolled. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. And by the way, I'm sure most of you heard about the latest from DOGE. I mean, we heard about it at the beginning here. Things are so amazing in terms of the mass amount of savings by DOGE. They're thinking of sending out what they're calling dividend checks to every single taxpayer in America, treating them basically as investors. And we're talking checks of around $5,000 each, which would be strategically brilliant because the tax refunds are coming from the savings of hundreds of billions of dollars already allocated for these absurd woke slush funds and Democrat money laundering operations. So it wouldn't cost us a dime. The money's already been allocated. It's already being, quote, spent, as it were. It never went out, thank God. But it's already being spent. It's already been allocated. So we just send $5,000 per taxpayer as a refund. And that would have a twofold effect. They would remind every single taxpayer of just how corrupt the DC Democrat-infested swamp has become. And at the same time, it would let every taxpayer share in the celebration of having saved so much of their money. So these refund checks would be reminders of just how corrupt the Democrats have been with our money, how corrupt they've been with our money. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And that move alone could consign the Democrats to a permanent political minority. All right, take a look at this latest executive order that was just signed by President Trump hours ago. It's called the Ensuring Accountability for All Agencies Act. And what it does is it gives President Trump direct control over a number of agencies in accordance with Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, which puts executive power over these agencies exclusively in the hands of the president. So we're talking agencies like the Federal Elections Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Communication Commission. Now, the key here is that the order requires all these agencies to submit their regulations to President Trump's budget chief, Russ Vought. Now, we've talked about Russell Vought quite a bit of late. He is one of the architects of Project 2025. He's one of the major authors of the Project 2025 blueprint. And then what Vought is going to do is he's going to report directly to the president as to who in these agencies is failing to comply with his direct orders from the Oval Office. And as Rod Martin is reporting, what makes it even better is that each and every one of these agencies has to have a White House liaison that will serve as the president's eyes and ears inside every single one of these agencies. So if you remember back during Trump's first term, he would sign all these executive orders, but what would these rogue agencies do? They'd ignore them. They'd completely ignore them. There was no oversight structure to guarantee that Trump's executive orders were being implemented. And we saw this particularly with USAID just now. Just literally within the last couple of weeks, where they blatantly and egregiously ignored Trump's executive order as well as senatorial oversight. And this has been one of DOGE's main jobs, right? This is what Elon's been talking about in the interview with Hannity, is that they've been going in and as part of their audits of all these agencies, they have been looking to see if they've been complying with President Trump's executive orders. And of course, virtually every single agency has not. And they were caught ignoring things like immediate freezes on foreign aid And what's so amazing, and again, this is why the woke libs of the New York Times are saying they've never seen anything like this before. What's so amazing is now with DOGE and with these oversight officials being implemented in every single one of these agencies, officials who have refused to comply with the executive orders are getting caught red-handed, and boom, they're fired immediately, right on the spot. And this is who the Democrat administrative state, this is how the Democrat administrative state has been able to function and grow all these years without any executive and congressional oversight. This is how they got turned into a slush fund and a money laundering agency for Democrat politicians and special interests. They just ignore executive power and they do whatever they want. They treat government as if it's theirs. They treat DC as if it's theirs. It belongs to them, not you. And what this new executive order is doing, along with the DOGE audits, is they're together coming in and completely purging these agencies of all the parties and participants and procedures that perpetuate this blatant corruption. And again, just click the link in the description below and you can get all these articles and tweets firsthand emailed to you. So you have all this data at the tip of your fingers. It's a brand new service that we're providing for you on this channel. We really we consider it a privilege to send you all this data for free, and then you can share it out and email it out to friends and family and the like, especially those who still remain skeptical of the golden age. And to make things even worse for the Democrat deep state, a federal judge just ruled that President Trump, yes, can indeed continue the mass firings of federal workers at an unprecedented level. Unions sued last week to block the administration from firing federal workers and granting buyouts to employees who quit voluntarily. I know a lot of you have been very frustrated with these activist judges, unelected judges. I might add, trying to hamper Trump's efforts at purging DC of these corrupt bureaucrats. But look, now a federal judge has overturned all such activist efforts at ending the purge. And so federal workers continue to get fired at a record pace. And this new executive order is only going to exacerbate that purge. It's only going to exacerbate. Gang, they can't stop the inevitable. Even when this ultimately goes to the Supreme Court, that's already been signaled, we're going to at least have a 5-vote majority that says executive agencies fall under the power and decision-making of the executive branch. You probably saw Steve Miller. Maybe we could get it for the Q&A section. But there was that beautiful civics lesson that was given by Stephen Miller to these activists, woke activists disguised as journalists in the White House press briefing room. But bottom line, the people vote in the executive. The one person in government that everyone votes on is the president. They vote him in, and then he exercises the people's will through his various appointees in the under and through the agencies that come under the authority of the executive branch. And there is nothing these activist judges can stop him from ultimately doing that. But what if all of this purging that he's engaged in, what if it ends up reaching the ultimate pinnacle? Could it possibly be the case that the Internal Revenue Service, the infamous IRS itself, is about to be totally and completely purged? You're not going to believe the answer is going to absolutely blow your mind. But speaking of the IRS, I want everyone to know that if you're finding yourself in the painful position of owing back taxes, gang, we've got patriots here that are ready to help. Now, as I'm sure you know, the IRS has been doing its darndest to make everyone pay up of late. They've hired thousands of new agents, right? Tune of plus 80,000, and have sent out over 5 million pay-up letters in 2024 alone. But if you're dealing with this mess, I want to connect you with a real, tangible solution. Don't give up your rights. Do not deal with them alone. The IRS is not your friend. Let Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, save you the time and money you deserve to keep. They've saved Americans, get this, over $1 billion in back taxes. You heard that right. $1 billion with a B dollars in back taxes. And they've got the skills needed to secure you the best possible deal. They're kind of like your own private DOGE. From a few $1,000s to 10 million, business to personal taxes. Let Tax Network USA restore your good standing so you could strengthen your financial foundation. When your financial situation is secure, you become the pillar of strength our nation needs. So click on that link below or call 1-800-245-6000. That's 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation, or visit them at tnusa.com/Turley.
Too long, the IRS has had no problem peering into the books of every American, rich or poor, middle-income American. It didn't matter. They love doing this stuff. But it's time for them to be held accountable, to make sure that everything that they're paying for is fully accounted for. I think that's a wonderful thing. And let's be very clear to the Democrats who are all concerned about the bureaucratic state. Elon Musk is going over to the Department of Defense as well. President Trump has a mission, and that is to make sure that our government is efficient and that it gets out of the way of the American people so our country can be great again. And so we're going to examine everything. Unlike the Democrats, we're not going to pick and choose what gets the spotlight. Everything's going to be examined. Everything's going to be addressed. And it's to the betterment of the American people. Because if we have an efficient government that spends less money, that helps every American when it comes to price stability and being able to borrow money in the future.
The auditors are being audited. Yesterday's 1 month mark of the Trumpocalypse was also marked by the announcement that DOGE was firing 6,000 IRS agents. It was being reported by the New York Times that a, quote, tearful executive at the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, I didn't know they cried, told staffers on Thursday that about 6,000 employees would be fired in a move that would eliminate roughly 6% of the agency's workforce. This is obviously just the beginning of the purge of the IRS. Again, all of this is so beautifully ironic. The very agency that's whining and complaining about being audited is the very one responsible for auditing American citizens. But the firing of 6,000 IRS agents is just the tip of the iceberg. President Trump has confirmed that it is indeed his goal, like with the Department of Education, to eliminate the IRS altogether. And this is where the External Revenue Service comes in, right? The External Revenue Service. Trump looks like he wants to go back to the tariff standard of government revenue as opposed to the income tax standard. Remember, if you don't, a lot of you may not know this, but originally the government was constitutionally barred from taxing citizens directly. Did you know that? All of our founding fathers were absolutely adamant and constitutionally enshrined the principle that our federal government should not be allowed to tax its citizens directly. We actually had to pass a constitutional amendment, the 16th Amendment, to modify the Constitution to allow the government to tax our income. It was a concept that was a complete anathema to our original framers. Our founding fathers were all, to the man, tariff proponents. And tariffs historically had two functions. Tariffs raised revenue for the government, and tariffs protected certain American industries. This goes all the way back to George Washington. Washington used tariffs to raise revenue for the government and protect American industries. Tariffs were the primary way our government was funded for a century and a half. Tariffs and the selling of land, which became the selling of land really, as I understand, became the primary means of revenue during the 19th century's westward expansion. And Trump wants to bring that back as well. He wants to sell off tons of federal land. But again, we actually needed a constitutional amendment, the 16th Amendment, for government to be able to institute an income tax. So this is exactly what President Trump wants to reverse, to rectify. His Commerce Secretary is now making it clear that Trump wants to go back to the time when the federal government made its money on tariffing other countries' exports into the United States and eliminate the IRS and income taxes entirely. This is unbelievable. And it's precisely, again, it's basically just returning to how our government functioned until 1913, the passage of the 16th Amendment, the creation of the Fed. Tariffs have always been the lifeblood of the federal government. And the very fact that it seems like our history classes in school have done everything they possibly, and our legacy media for that matter, have done everything possible, everything they possibly can to infuse a kind of amnesia, collective amnesia, and make us forget that, I think speaks volumes. And if Trump has his way, we are going to truly make America great again by going back to that external revenue system. Make other nations who are profiting off of our massive consumer base, make those other nations have to pay a fee in order for them to have the privilege of participating in that extraordinary consumer experience. It's just another day in America's new golden age. Every single day, billions of waste, fraud, and abuse are being identified and stopped. Every single day, tens of thousands of federal workers are being permanently let go. Every single day, tens of thousands of new Republican voters are being registered across the country. Every single day, Trump's poll numbers keep going up as the Democrats' poll numbers keep going down. Every single day, we get things like dividend checks from all the savings possibly being poised to be sent out to every single taxpayer. Every single day, the southern border is secured with illegal crossings down 95%. Every single day, the mass deportation numbers increase by the thousands. Every single day, Trump's cabinet nominees, every single one of them have now officially been confirmed. Every single day, the administrative state is being dismantled at breathtaking speed. Every single day, the Democrats and the legacy media are literally being left shell-shocked. Every single day. And we still have 3 years and 11 months to go. Over to you. As Josh and Micah assemble your questions, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine. Staying strong physically and mentally isn't just about living longer. It's about living better, which starts with a good night's sleep. Do you know that? And if you get into biohacking, the first thing every biohacking article is going to advise you is get a good night's sleep. That's the key to health. Well, I've been using Beam Dream every single night for a while now. And I got to tell you, gang, it has completely changed the way I sleep. I'm frankly a horrible sleeper. I've told you guys that, right? I have a hard time turning off my brain. But seriously, ever since taking Dream, I literally crash. I fall asleep so fast and sleep deeply and soundly all through the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get the deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine, and I just look forward to it every single day. If I might make the recommendation, I love their brownie batter flavor. All the flavors are great, but I love brownie batter flavor. Put a little cream in there, hot water. Oh, it's so wonderful. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy, the next morning. Instead, I wake up feeling rested, ready to give my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Now, right now, you could save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code TURLEY, TURLEY, at checkout. It's time to stop letting sleepless nights hold you back, gang. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream because you deserve it. Click on that link below or scan that QR code right now. All right, what do we got, gang? What do we got? George Bear, hey, Dr. Steve. Know any trustworthy alternatives to Coinbase? You don't like Coinbase, huh? Yeah, isn't crypto.com? Isn't that an exchange? There's a bunch. I thought Coinbase was pretty good. You have to let me know. That's one I use. So maybe that's why you have to let me know, George, what your concern is. But for crypto exchanges, I mean, there's several of them. I don't know. My personal views, I'd stick with those that are in the United States just because of, accountability. But Coinbase can be frustrating because I think either they've gone public, right? Haven't they gone public already? But in order to meet all of the strictures and the regulative evaluations, they make it hard to increase the amount of money you can spend on Bitcoin or all the different cryptos, Solana, whatever, Ethereum. They make it hard. It took months before my limit, my purchasing limit to draw from my bank account got over 10,000. It took a long time for that. And so anyway, so if you really want to put a lot of money in crypto, it could take a while. But if that's your concern, if you just buy whatever the limit is, as much that they give you, as much as you can, eventually it does go up. And I saw that. I've expressed my grievance with Coinbase on that. But I try crypto.com. There's a bunch of others. The names don't come to mind, but you can look them up. Sigla, thank you for the super chat. I don't think we will ever get tired of winning. I'm with you, Sigla. I don't think we're ever going to get tired of winning either. It's just absolutely way too exciting. Mitchell, will the tariffs and taxes on cruises and things make international travel more expensive? Well, sure, it will. I think they have to stay competitive. So, and the way I'm understanding it is they want to do that. You'll notice every time they talk tariff, they're also talking tax cuts. So as tariffs go up, taxes go down. So they're going to make sure you have more money in your pocket. And that's the idea. The idea is Americans should be freed from burdensome regulative confiscatory taxation. They should be freed as much as possible. And if you're freed from, if you think about it now, at least 45% of your money throughout the years go into taxes. If you could just cut that in half, if a cruise price goes up 1,000, whatever, no big deal. So anyway, Deborah, now that Kash Patel's in, what will happen to those on the Epstein list? So that's going to be the indictment stage. So remember, we're at 2 stages for dismantling the administrative state and the deep state. First stage is the dismantling stage, and the second stage is the indictment stage. So we're at the dismantling stage with all the firings, with all the cuttings, with all the shutting downs. We have yet to get to the indictment stage. That does take a little bit longer. That usually involves grand juries and assembling evidence and the like. So I think we're going to have a good idea of what Pam Bondi and Kash have in mind for people involved with the Epstein situation, people involved, frankly, with J6, people involved with 2020. I think all of that's getting investigated. People involved, obviously, with the spying. We're already seeing the 51 so-called intelligence experts getting their security clearances revoked, not allowed into federal buildings. We'll get a better idea in the next couple of months of what the indictment stage is going to look like. Richard, Dr. Steve, could you look into your crystal ball and tell us who Kash, Pam, and Tulsi will investigate first? So I don't know how much of this is wishful thinking. I want to see Adam Schiff. I think Schiff needs to be perp walked. My personal opinion. I think he needs to be he needs to be Menendezed. He needs to be kicked out of the Senate, and he needs to be perp walked. That guy is as crooked as they get. He is wicked. He purposely led our nation into a tumultuous period, a very politically unstable period, not just domestically, but geopolitically, with the whole Russian collusion hoax, because that angered Russia. That made Russia very upset. Putin talked about that a lot of time. When did we become the villain of the world? When did that happen? So blaming Russia for everything under the sun in Trump's first tenure was not only a lie, but it actually jeopardized world peace. And so that's for me. I'd personally like to see Adam Schiff as the very first investigation. Joan, 2 math stat questions. The brilliant mathematician Jasmine Crockett says that the federal government is the 15th largest employer in the world. Wow. If that's true, and who are the larger 14? The New Republic, that I don't trust. Yeah, they do tend to be very left-wing. Claims that Trump's approval rating is 47 plus. 52. Gallup, 45 plus. Let's see. I'm trying to get. Oh, I see. His approval rating is 47 approved, 52 disapprove. Right? Yeah. Gallup, 45 approved, 51 disapprove, and Washington Post even at 48. And that Musk is way below Trump. This sounds fishy. Please comment. It is fishy. Mark Mitchell has already brought it up, as has Rich Barris. Their polling, which was far more accurate. Remember, Gallup doesn't even poll presidential preference anymore. Their polling was infinitely more accurate than what you're getting from these left-wing sites. Rich Barris, Mark Mitchell, Atlas Intel, they're just, and they do not see anything like that. They're seeing very high approval ratings for President Trump, very high. And again, you're seeing it in voter registration. If Trump were really unpopular, you would see Democrats with a plus voter ID or plus voter registration, and we're not. They're negative. Republicans have the plus advantage of voter registration. First time we've seen that, by the way. So, no, I wouldn't pay any attention to those. That's all pure propaganda. Trump said that Zelensky had a 4% approval rating, and then immediately all the legacy media threw out a poll that showed he had like a 54, 55% approval rating. That number came the day after Trump gave that speech where he said he only had a 4% approval rating. It came from a Kiev institute that we now know is funded by USAID. So again, we don't know how many of these polling outlets are getting kickbacks. So I wouldn't pay any attention to those whatsoever. Keep your eye on the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. His polling is stellar. It's second to none. Keep your eye on Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Polling is stellar, second to none. Keep your eye on Atlas Intel. Their polling is stellar. So those are Gallup. I would not trust when it comes to presidential approval, because they don't do it leading up to the election. They tend to stay away from that as much as possible. So I'd watch out for Gallup as well. RT Core, Dr. Turley, one of two little dooming here. I still struggle with believing the Dems don't have a potential leader. I worry O'Rourke. Really? Rod Core O'Rourke? All right. Abrams? Jasmine, Newsom, they'll jump in. Vote for me. I'm not Republican. Scary how well it worked for Kamala. Or they won't pick someone more sensible. Stephen A. Oh, yes, Stephen. Right. I try to counter with thinking the Democrats will hype up their most hated politicians in order to get them crushed and then have an excuse to get rid of all that. Maybe. Look, I mean, again, we don't know. We can only surmise from what we're seeing. It does appear like James Carville does appear very panicked of late. Where he's basically told Democrats to play possum, because every time they go out there, they just make fools of themselves, including with Crockett. Abrams is about to get investigated. We're finding Abrams was running a $2 billion slush fund. Billion with a B. $2 billion slush fund that's going to get investigated. Remember, most of these Democrats were getting their kickbacks, assuming that a DOGE would never happen. A Department of Government Efficiency auditing the government would never happen. Well, now it's happening. So it's their worst nightmare come true. I don't see O'Rourke. O'Rourke is just, he seems to me, he's a loser at this point. What's Stephen A? What's his last name? Why am I forgetting Stephen A? Is it Smith? Yeah, Stephen Smith, right? Yeah, Smith, thanks. Smoth. Our producer Mike tried to save me there and he put Smoth. That's why I don't listen to you. Yeah, no, I don't see that. Maybe, but he's too schizophrenic, politically schizophrenic. One day he's pissing off Democrats, the other day he's pissing off Republicans. You can't do that. That's not the sweet spot, political sweet spot. I just think they're leaderless at this point. Hakeem Jeffries is I think the best they've got, and he's a disaster, quite frankly. It's just too left wing, too nutty, too stuck into the old 60s mindset. No, right? I would not even remotely black pill. Don't doom. Not if there's a time to doom, I'll let you know. You know, I'm very forthright with that. I've come out and said that's it. I'm dooming. I'm blackpilling. I've had it. I remember after the judge involved in the Fulton County charges, the Fannie Willis charges against Trump, when she got caught red-handed, having an unethical relationship and spending tax dollar money with her boy toy, Nathan Willis, when that judge came in and said, well, one of you's going to have to go. I'm not going to knock you both off of this case like you should be, which they eventually were. She eventually was. No, one of you's got to go and the other one can stay. And it's like, but you're saying, in effect, both of them are not qualified to try this case. They are both totally ethically compromised in trying this case, but you're allowing one of them to do it anyway. That's when I got blackpilled. I just said, the system is just so effing rigged. There's nothing we can do at this point. And that judge, if I recall, is a Republican judge, a Republican appointed judge. So I just finally said, so I can blackpill, I can do, but this isn't it. Not right now. No way. We're not even close to dooming. Democrats enjoy the Democrat chaos right now. RT Corp 202. On the other hand, which worst case scenario is worse? Democrats don't learn from their mistakes and never return to the center, therefore proving no counterweight for if the Republicans go too far right, or Democrats move to the center like they did in the 80s and 90s, return to power, and then turn back into what they are now again. I'd like to have a centrist Democrat party. I think I lean that way, but not at the risk of becoming zealots again. Well, I mean, of course, yeah, that could happen. Sure. Yeah, that could happen. Again, I do think you're still thinking in older terms of the horizontal divide rather than the vertical divide. Horizontal divide's left versus right. I don't think we've got left versus right politics anymore. We've got the people versus the permanent political class. And the People's Party now is MAGA. It's the MAGA Republican Party. And the Democrats are siding with, and that's the 80%, as it were, majority. And the Democrats are siding with the 20% minority permanent political class. They're siding with the IRS. They're siding with keeping money, dividend checks being sent to you. They're siding with waste, fraud, and abuse. They're siding with the deep state and with the administrative state, thinking that this represents America. And so I don't think it's a left versus right anymore. I think it's a people versus permanent political class, and you're just going to have to bring down that permanent political class so that there's nothing for Democrats to defend anymore. And now they're going to have to find a new people, a new perhaps unattended constituency that they can represent, that to try to take the mantle of the people away from the Republicans. Because as I see it now, the new you're always going to have a political class, but the new political class that's coming in is more the new aristocratic right. So this is the new tech right, for example, the Musks, the Peter Thiels, the Viveks, the Balaji Srinivasans, the J.D. Vance. where they made a lot of money on Silicon Valley, but they hate San Francisco liberal values. They're all for faith, family, and freedom. But in their own way, it tends to be a little bit more techno-libertarian way. And then that's linking up with the trad right. So the tech right is linking up with the trad right. Trad right tend to represent the people, the majority of the people. And then you're getting an aristopopulism, which is what Aristotle recommended. You have an aristocracy that's using their power and their wealth to advance the interests of the people. So that would replace the system we have now or had, which is an oligarchy that despises the values and interests of the people. And it would replace a kind of French Revolution that cuts their heads off, and then you just have mob rule. So you're always going to have your top 1%, top 10%, whatever, but they should be those who use their power, their privilege, their affluence, whatever you want to call it, as the means by which to realize and to make manifest, to bring into time and space, to materialize the values and concerns of the people. And the Democrats are just going to have to find their place somewhere in that structure. But I think you're still thinking a little bit too much left and right. I don't think that's the politics today. Independent free thinker outlaw all parties. Love it. Thanks for the super chat. Ask Trump to end property taxes, extortion. Yeah, the problem with property taxes is that's state. It's not so much government. Not so much federal government, I should say. So yeah. I mean, you have to. That's gonna be the next step, isn't it? This could be the next stage. But I don't know the extent to which federal government do it. Maybe they could pass a law to do it. I don't know. But MAGA 20 forever. Dr. Steve, now that all of Trump's cabinet picks are approved, I read that about 1,000 top managers under the cabinet picks have to also approve these managers. Top managers under the cabinet picks have to also approve these managers. Is this true? If so, how long before the full Trump team is approved and fully charged to run over bureaucracy for us? So there are, as I understand, there are managers. I don't know the protocol of picking everyone. I think certain top ones are picked or approved, confirmed. So there are some concerns. I think Tom Cotton, for example, is a bit of a holdout on one of those managers. So he's getting some pushback on that. But no, generally, you've got to get the cabinet approved. Once you've got the cabinet approved, all bets are off. Now you can go full side. We've been seeing it. We've been seeing it particularly with Homeland Security and the way the border can get secured. It can happen so fast once Pam Bondi and the Justice Department is already cleaning house left and right. Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense, DEI is absolutely gone. So no, once you've got Trump's cabinet picks in place, we're pretty much it's smooth sailing. There could be bumps along the road because there could be key managers that they want that are still under senatorial confirmation. But again, they can also be appointed during recess as well. So that's not a big deal. Trump could do that easily. So I think it's okay. It does take a while. We're probably looking at another month or so before every single person is put into place. But that's about it. We still have 3 years and 10 months to go. Vlad the Impaler, 877 cash now. I love it. Eric the Red, we're all for efficiency, but maybe the pendulum started out swinging too far. Someone I care about, Department of Justice employed civil rights lawyer, moved to D.C. a month ago. I'm hoping her work doesn't seem to be the kind of thing on the chopping block, but she's been increasingly fearing her job security more and more since the election, seeing so many colleagues dumped with what she professionally considers illegal speed. Can you help me help her feel more secure or something, please? LOL. Well, I mean, so bottom line, if Project 2025 is more or less the blueprint that's being used, which I believe it is, and I should share with you guys, there is a website where you can actually track all the Project 2025 measures that are being implemented. So far, according to this website, 35% of Project 2025 has already been implemented. It's only been a month. It's only been 30 days, literally. So they're like, it's amounting to be more or less one measure per day of Project 2025 is being initiated. So if that's the case, then what we're seeing is an overall twofold approach to transforming DC. We are firing and gutting all of these federal workers and their positions, number one, and then number two, replacing them with MAGA loyalists. Now, if she is a MAGA loyalist, then she should find her job relatively secure. What DOGE is looking for is they're looking for those who have been actively resisting the Trump presidency and therefore the will of the people, the executive branch. And those are the ones who are getting primarily fired. Now, of course, will there be some collateral damage? Sure, of course, yeah. But that's just part of it. There's nothing I can do for you on that. But if she proves herself a MAGA loyalist, then she'll be fine. But this is brass knuckles politics. This is pure power. And pure power is we reward our friends and we punish our enemies. And that is what Trump is implementing and what he needs to do. Because this ideological politics is ridiculous. So anyway, there you go. Ideological politics, when all is said and done, tells the Democrats, when you're in power, you can abuse Republicans all you want. When Republicans are in power, they're not going to do anything about it. And there's not going to be a single Democrat who will not sign on to that. We cannot have that. We have to have deterrence. We have to have a system where if Democrats abuse us, we get into power, we will abuse them 10x what they did to us. It will be shock and awe. You will never, ever see your government return again the way you had it. So that's the way Trump is approaching this. So if she's all for MAGA, she should be fine. If she's not, sorry, all bets are off. She's gone. She's probably gone. Davros, I know it's early, but I'm worried about losing all this momentum by losing the midterm elections. The best of your show is election analysis. Can we get a special show, an early look at predictive indicators for the midterm elections? Absolutely. As we get a little bit closer, we'll be bringing in all our heavyweights. We'll be bringing in Rich Barris and Mark Mitchell and Seth Cashel and our election modelers. They'll give us a very, very good sense of what to expect in the midterm. So far, just so you know, the Senate looks like it's pretty safe. We're going to be okay in the Senate. It's just the way it works. They just don't, Mitch McConnell will be gone. I don't know if you guys heard that. He said yesterday he's not going to be running for re-election. So he is gone. We have a pretty red Senate coming actually for like literally the next several cycles of elections. Pretty red Senate, so there's not going to be much that they can do there. We'll see what the House, but even if they took over the House, the way Democrats just got so ridiculous under Nancy Pelosi and all the just absurd things that they were passing, or all these crazy things they were doing against President Trump, however many impeachments and so forth, most people are just going to laugh at it. You want the Senate because the Senate you're dealing with judicial confirmations and approvals. That's the big thing for the Senate. House flips over every 2 years, and so it tends to be relatively volatile. But we'll keep an eye on it. We'll definitely keep an eye. You'll get it. You'll get election analysis. I love doing it. I love election analysis. So but it is a little early. It's a little early right now. We have to wait a few months before we're going to get some really good data on that. Terry, how can Trump move all these federal worker types out of the state of Virginia? There you go. So that residents of Western and South Central Virginia don't get outvoted by Democrat loyalists in Northern Virginia, and who have elected some of the worst governors and senators that Virginia has ever had. Great question. Well, he can't move them out of Virginia. What he can do is he can fire them. What you can do is fire them and dismantle the entire NOVA system, as we call Northern Virginia system, so that they have to move out and maybe go to California or go to New York or, go to Illinois, go somewhere, Chicago, somewhere else, wherever else they have bloated bureaucracy. But we are seeing that property value in Nova is going down significantly. In other words, more and more for sale signs are going up. The supply is increasing, but the demand is not comparably increasing. The demand is lowering, and therefore the real estate prices are going down. So that tells us that a lot of people are starting to leave Northern Virginia, and that's good news. And so I'm with you. It may take a couple of cycles, a couple of years, but it sounds to me, they were talking about this last night, DOGE is going to go on for the next 4 years. So their goal is on July the 4th to work themselves out of a job, and on our 250th anniversary, hand to America the government back. That's basically what and they will. They'll do that in a ceremonial sense. But the DOGE audits, I think, will be ongoing. They're never going to stop. It may not be Elon at the top, but we've got, his team there is just so incredible. And they'll train and keep others to come in and keep this process of constantly, which I think is key, constantly auditing the government. We never stop auditing the auditors. We never stop supervising the supervisors. That always has to be done constantly and continuously. So this never happens again. And I just think that as that just continues over the next 2 to 4 years, you're just going to see Northern Virginia change dramatically demographically. There's just no way around it, because there's just not going to be any more jobs for them. They're going to leave. So, and then, yes, if we can turn Virginia red again because of Western Virginia and Southern Virginia, overwhelmingly MAGA country, if we can do that, all bets are off. All bets are off in terms of boxing Democrats out electorally from presidential power for the foreseeable future, especially given the fact that Pennsylvania is the new Ohio. It's going deep red, and it looks like New Jersey is the next Pennsylvania. I mean, if Virginia follows Jersey, I mean, again, all bets are off. Democrats won't win another presidential election for a generation. MAGA 220 forever. Dr. Steve, have you read the story that we can thank Biden for the authority to fire any federal employee because Biden won a lawsuit against Sean Spicer to prove his argument that the president has the firing authority? Hilarious. I didn't, but that's so ironic. It's ironic justice. They're getting, like Haman in the Bible, they're getting hung by their own gallows that they built. I would love if that's true, that's glorious. I love it. I didn't know that. Rutcorp, Dr. True, do you think New York will turn red if Trump endorses Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl? And they do. Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't know if that'll be the reason. But New York is moving red. It has been moving red. The boroughs have been moving red in the city. It's been following Connecticut and New Jersey, right? That tri-state area. What I grew up in Connecticut. So it's happening. It really is. Jersey will flip first. Looks like, we're literally, Scott Pressler sees it. He's got it in his sights. So he wants to flip Jersey, as does Brandon Strzok of Walk Away. He's got Jersey in his sights for voter registration. Voter registration is the key indicator for where the state is going to go. People register for a party, and meaning that they are intent to vote for that party. So that's the key. And identifying voter identification is the leading indicator, and then voter actual registration is the lagging indicator. There are plenty of Democrats, for example, in rural Pennsylvania who had not yet formally changed their voter registration that said they were they identified as Republicans, even though they were still Democrats, for example. Same with North Carolina as well. North Carolina always votes more Republican than its registration. But in terms of voter registration, that lagging indicator, it's Pennsylvania first, then New Jersey, then it looks like it's going to be Connecticut, and then New York. And so Pennsylvania is going the way of Ohio. This is Data Republican, if I recall. She put it this way, and she's a brilliant analyst. We'll have to have her on. But Pennsylvania is going the way of Ohio. New Jersey is going the way of Pennsylvania. Connecticut's going the way of New Jersey, and then New York will go the way of Connecticut. And it's somewhere Virginia. If we can get Novo cleaned out, then they'll be permanently boxed out of power. There's just no way around it. The Democrats will be permanently boxed out of power. Not just presidential. With shifts like that, they're permanently out of Senate and the House. And maybe with the Buffalo Bills, we'll see. Maximilian, complicated question. Maximilian, do you ever give me simple ones? My understanding of idealist philosophy is that the nature of an entity determines its material conditions, while materialist philosophy holds that material conditions determine the nature of the entities. First, is that assessment correct? Second, is it a false dichotomy? Third, which position is correct? Great. No, you got it. You really do. So, if you've ever seen that beautiful painting by Raphael, The School of Athens, you'll have Plato pointing up and Aristotle pointing down. So they're the two philosophers at the center. Plato is pointing up and Aristotle is pointing down. So for Plato would argue that if you want to truly understand things in reality, computers, tables, cups, chairs, whatever, you want to understand things, you have to first start with their heavenly prototypes. Everything in the material world is a spatial temporal manifestation of eternal reality. If you're going to the biblical view, for example, the writer of Hebrews in the New Testament says that Moses built the tabernacle and David the temple according to the heavenly prototype. So the way worship is conducted in heaven is the eternal prototype for how things get manifested in the world. So another way of putting it is everything in the world, everything in the world is a material, physical, temporal, spatial manifestation of God's mind, God's imagination. So God's imagination being, trans material, is the prototype, and everything else falls from that. Aristotle believed more you didn't need that to truly understand things. You could understand things in and of themselves because the human mind, the intellect, has what he called an active intellect that was able to discern the nature of things itself. I don't need to contemplate divine. He did believe it. He had no problem with what he called an unmoved mover in the celestial spheres, but he just believed epistemologically we can understand things in and of themselves. We don't need recourse to eternal reality and so forth. Which one's right? Yes. The reason why I pointed out the Raphael painting is because you have Plato pointing up and Aristotle pointing down. Let me see if I remember. I think it's so, but you'll note that Plato is wearing a red garment and Aristotle is wearing a blue garment. Let me just make sure I've got this. Plato and Aristotle, Raphael. It's been a while since I looked at it. I just want to make sure I give you the right. That's right. So Plato is wearing the red garment and and Aristotle is wearing the blue. And the blue is overlapping the red. And you'll see it in the painting where his arm, Aristotle's arm, is in front of and overlapping Plato's red. If you look at an icon of Christ, Christ always has two colors. He has blue and red, and the blue overlaps the red. The blue signifies eternity, red signifies love. So this is why it's so cool that when he's being judged to be crucified, he's wearing a purple robe. Purple's made up of blue and red. Eternal love, right? The theology of color. So Raphael is arguing that in the incarnation of Christ, the Son of God, the eternal Son of God, becoming human, becoming man, the idealist eternal sense of knowledge and the materialist temporal sense of knowledge become one. He unifies the two. So we can understand the world with our active intellect, right? But as that understanding draws us up into eternal life, and we can start with eternal life in the eternal world, but only so far as it brings us down to better understand the world that God himself descended into. So Christ is the bridge between the material and the ideational. So there you go. They're both right. They both have their advantages. And because of the incarnation, you don't have to choose. You can utilize both as you see fit. Hi, Q. Well, thank you for the pound sterling, sir. Dr. T, it's been a while. It has, hi, Q. Great to see you again. In order for the woke to die, does liberalism need to die with it? It is the petri dish which allows it. Is it the petri dish which allows it to germinate? I would, yeah. I just don't see any way around that. I was talking about this just the other day with somebody. And I'm trying to remember the exact kind of structure of the conversation. But yeah, I said something like, oh, I hope I don't offend anybody, but I said something like wokeness is kind of like the Wahhabi fundamentalism of liberalism, something like that. So you can have liberals like Bill Maher who are not woke, but I don't think you get wokeness without liberalism. I don't think you do. Wokeness is basically the sanctification of the categories of liberalism. And by that, I mean, while liberalism can sound fine, right? We're going to rely on reason over and against religion in all matters of public policy. And we're going to restrain executive power so as to maximize individual freedom. Those are your two fundamental tenets of classical liberalism, the 18th century, 19th. Adam Smith develops this. We emphasize reason as over and against religion in all matters of public policy, and we restrain executive power so as to maximize individual liberties. That's fine as far as it goes, as long as it's rooted in a transcendent, more sacred religious worldview that's able to do exactly what J.D. Vance talked about in terms of ordering our loves, right ordering our loves. But if we don't have that, what we found is that reason left to its own devices collapses. That's what gave us postmodernism in the 1960s. It was academics, the guardians of liberalism, and American universities and European universities that started doubting reason. They started arguing that reason was a colonial tool to subject populations around the world to Western norms. So they believed we lived in an ecology of knowledges, an ecology of reasons. There's not one rational schema, one rational epistemology for all peoples, times, and places. So they began to see knowledge as sociologically and culturally conditioned. And then by redefining the individual person as a sovereign individual, liberals increasingly marginalized what we call intermediary institutions, church, family, community, all kinds of guilds and organizations that function to help develop and cultivate the individual in a community, in a social order. In the name of that radical individualism, church and community, increasingly family, all got marginalized. And then that left this vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. So the government came in and swooped in and basically took over all those services. So we saw in the 60s both reason as the tool for all things decided in public policy collapse under the power, the postmodernism. And the sovereign individual end up becoming the basis for collapsing all the intermediary institutions that provided necessary social functions like church and family and community, all various organizations like those collapsed. And so what you ended up getting instead of rational liberty, you ended up getting irrational repression. That's basically what liberalism has turned into. And you don't get more irrationally repressive than wokeness. Wokeness more or less sanctifies the categories of liberalism. Liberalism saw that we needed liberating emancipation from, church and state or whatever. And it saw forces that were oppressive, and then there were people that are oppressed, and then cultural Marxism transformed that into race and gender and sexual categories of oppressor and oppressed, sanctified the oppressed, the victim, put them at a higher caste level than the oppressor, said they were above the law, so they could basically do whatever they want, and the law will actually recalibrate itself around them. But if you're an oppressor, the law will be weaponized against you in such a way that makes it virtually impossible to live under. So you get this anarcho-tyranny structure. And that all comes out of liberalism, seems to me. And the decay of liberalism that's inherent in liberalism without a larger metaphysical, classical metaphysical structure to it. Great question. Rock Dog 71, Dr. Steve, is it possible that DOGE uncovers the nearly $3 trillion in waste in the next months? So yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, getting it to, what is it? July the 4th, 2026. If that's the case, could that mean we wipe out the national debt in 10 years? That's what it was, a combination of combination of three things that I'm hearing could wipe out the national debt in record time. One is cleaning up all the waste, fraud, and abuse, trillions of dollars of waste. Two, tariffs, because if every country starts paying a fee in order to participate in the single strongest economy in the world, which they profit off of, that itself will raise trillions and trillions of dollars. And then third is what Michael Saylor and others are arguing, that the Bitcoin reserve that the Senate is already considering right now, that could generate money beyond our wildest dreams, especially if the United States starts owning. I think Trump's goal was to own 5% of the world's Bitcoin. If we have a massive reserve like that, and the Bitcoin valuation, what is it? It's still in the low trillions, isn't it? 1-2 trillion. If that hits upwards of like 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars in valuation as a result of that kind of security and more people getting involved, we wouldn't have a debt anymore. We wouldn't have a debt. I mean, it would be utterly astonishing, and we could do it very fast. But it does involve us getting to the next level of human civilization, as it were, right? Getting out of the industrial revolution, getting into the cyber revolution, the cybercosm, which is what our new tech right wants us to do. The new tech right is leading the way towards a more cyber-cosmic way of doing human life that is emancipating us, liberating us from the old liberal, modern, industrial, tired, old, decaying order. And if we can get that, I think we can destroy. We're dealing with a level of scalability and a level of sustainability like we've never seen before. Scalability in that cyberspace has scalability function that is unprecedented. I think I didn't bring my phone downstairs, but I like to take out a phone from a handheld phone, a smartphone, and say, I used to work at the George Peabody Library in Baltimore. Beautiful, beautiful library. It houses 300,000 books. It's gorgeous. It's called the Cathedral Books. It's absolutely beautiful. You walk in there and you're just like, wow, I never want to get rid of those places. We need those spaces. But I walk in that massive building, 6 stories high, right? Just the Cathedral of Books, as it's called. It has 300,000 books, physical books. But I could take out my smartphone and in my hand, do you know how many books I have access to online? About 120 million. That's the scalability we've never seen before. And those books online never decay. That's the sustainability. They never decay. Whereas the book, and I used to work at the Peabody Library, we're constantly finding mold. We're constantly finding that the covers degenerating, the pages degenerating, and so forth. So the entropic processes of decay immediately kick in the moment you create something that is subject to time and space. Whereas cyber, the noosphere, as it's called, right? You got your geosphere, your biosphere, and then now your noosphere, the sphere of cybercosm, that tends to transcend the processes of decay. So I put a book up online, and it is there theoretically forever. So if we can more and more, and now we have money, our very concept of money has entered into that cybercosm via Bitcoin and Ethereum and the like. So if we can draw as much of our economy into the cybercosm, which is exactly what the new tech right wants to do and are doing, I know it sounds insane, but 30 trill is not a big number anymore. It's just not, because again of infinite scalability and sustainability. So anyway, it's really neat stuff. Ignatius, thank you so much for the super chat. Love the thumbnail. Dr. Steve, longtime listener, first time gifter. Thank you, Ignatius. Very kind of you. Thank you. They will make a movie about this point of time in American history, and it would be the best-selling film of all time. Hours long, to say the least. They will. We're living in absolutely historic times in so many ways. I mean, we really are transitioning into a new domestic period for our nation, like I just talked about, moving sort of from the industrial age to the cyber age, AI, crypto, internet technologies, quantum computing, and the like. That's just changing everything in terms of sustainability and scalability. And we're moving into a new geopolitical era, from a unipolar world to a multipolar world, to a world reorganizing around the great civilizational spheres of the return of the great world religions, reawakening their respective civilizations. So it's unlike anything. And of course, we're seeing that in real time with the United States and Russia negotiating peace in Ukraine without Ukraine and without Europe, because they're both just kind of stuck in the past right now. So you're right, Ignatius. We're in literally unparalleled times. It's absolutely incredible. Can't wait to see the movie. SB, thank you for the gift, SB. Thank you very much. Richard, Dr. Steve, any info about special forces going into Mexico to take out the cartels? I did see that. I saw drones, saw all kinds of things. Nothing updated on my end. So it'd be cool if anyone in the comments or in the chat have any updates on that. I'd love to hear about it. But oh yeah, no, Trump ain't playing around. He ain't playing around. He's going after the cartels. He's going after the fentanyl, and they're making absolutely clear it's zero tolerance, and they're gonna crush it. That's just it's literally they're not taking prisoners. This is pretty impressive stuff. Bert, good morning, Dr. Steve. What do you think the results of the few drone hits? What do you think the results of a few drone hits due to our relationship? Okay, so it's very much very much. How do I put it? I don't think it matters. I'm not trying to be a jerk with it. I am a realist. I'm a political realist, right? Geopolitical realist, like John Mearsheimer, Jeffrey Sachs. Although Sachs is a bit different than Mearsheimer, in fairness. I don't think he'd call himself a realist. I'll take that back. But I'm a political realist. Bottom line, geopolitics is about great power politics. When all said and done, it's all about great power politics. If you don't have nukes, you're not a great power. Just ask Iraq. Just ask Afghanistan. If you don't have nukes, you're not a great power. We can do whatever we want with you. And we meaning those who have nukes. So Mexico, whether it likes it or not, it's just the nature of international political power. Mexico, whether it likes it or not, is going to do what America says it's going to do. Now, if you got a incompetent, pathetic administration like the previous one, we're going to do whatever Mexico wants, but generally speaking, that is technically a kind of liberal international politics, or where ideology and human rights and blah 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 are all used as the policing mechanism for relation. Not in real, it's great power politics, and we're going to do whatever we want, and Mexico's not going to be able to do anything about it. It's just bottom line. Does that help or hurt? Or it's neutral. It doesn't. Mexico will do whatever we want them to do. Period. And it's just because and it's the same with Canada, and it's the same with Central America. It's the same with South America. It's the same. It's same with the whole of our hemisphere. As is the case with the nations around Russia, as is the case with the nations around China, as is the case with the geopolitical structure around India. It's the same thing. If you've got nukes and you're a great power, you can basically get your region to comply with your policies. That's just the way. So what is it? You got to become a great power. That's the name of the game. And America did. America became the great power within our hemisphere. Quark, give the money to North Carolina families. Yep, from the FEMA disaster failure. Absolutely. I'd love to see something like that, or a special gift to all the families that suffered. For them, the East Palestine people that were suffering, the LA fires, you name it. Yeah, Maui. Everyone who suffered under the bumbling Biden administration needs to get something very special, I think. I think we would all agree with that. Janice, do you think more Democrat states have sections split away and join the Republican states? Like Pennsylvania, we could leave Philadelphia and Pittsburgh on their own with their own Democrats? Well, it looks like you're going to solve the problem in Pennsylvania just with the shift red, because in Pennsylvania, and I'm in the greater Philly area, so I'm in Delaware. But you've got Philadelphia in the east, you've got Pittsburgh in the west, and you've got Alabama in between. That's James Carville, as he puts it. And it looks like Alabama has risen up, and it is taking the state back. It's becoming very, very red. I know you still got Shapiro. I know you got Fetterman, but it is becoming very, very red. And I see Fetterman as a total fraud. He's just a liberal. I don't know why people like Hannity give him the time of day, but alas, that's just Hannity. He's not the brightest bulb when it comes to politics, in my opinion. But I think, at least when it comes to Pennsylvania, you've got such a huge red population center in between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And at the same time, you've got enough non-white working class in both Philly and Pittsburgh moving to the right because of MAGA. And so that's basically turning Pennsylvania into the new Ohio. So Ohio's got they got Cincinnati, they got Cleveland, but they're able to overcome that because enough of their, Alabama part of their state, Pennsylvania and Ohio are very similar in terms of demographics. Enough of their state has gone red, and then enough of the non-white working class in Cincinnati and Cleveland have gone red, so as to create an unassailable majority. That is happening in Pennsylvania. So I don't think you have to worry about, sort of this soft secession away from Philly or Pittsburgh. Now, if you're in Oregon, that's a different situation. What is it? Muhlenberg County? What's the county that has Portland? They're like 60% of the population of the entire state. So 80% of the state, in terms of land mass, only accounts for about 20, maybe 30% of the population. So whenever Oregon has an election, 90%, if I recall, what do they have? How many? I think they have 24 counties, 34 counties, Oregon county total. Oregon has 36 counties. Okay, so I think it's something around 30 counties always vote deep red. And that's at Multnomah County, that Muhlenberg. What am I talking about? Multnomah County. Multnomah County alone, if you got rid of Multnomah County alone, the Republican would win every election by 10 points. But because Multnomah County is the most populated county, home to Portland, and because the other counties just don't have anywhere near the numbers, then 30 of the 36 counties are stuck with the politics of Portland. And that's why they want to break off and join up with Idaho, the greater Idaho movement. That may happen. We'll have to see. So I don't think you have to worry about it in Pennsylvania, but certainly states like Oregon are considering it, and states like Illinois are considering breaking off from their, like Clark County in Illinois, breaking off from their super cities, so that they can finally have a politics that reflects their own values, interests, and concerns. We're going to have to see if it can work. We don't know yet. But that kind of secession, again, keep in mind, you do have cities seceding from other cities. So the latest one was you had a break off, I forget what it's called, from Baton Rouge. So there was enough of a population center plus 100,000 that voted to secede. They were originally under Baton Rouge, but they're all conservative, and they voted to secede and create their own city. That happens. That's happened to Memphis. Memphis has had 4, if I recall, 4 breakoffs. Can you do it? If you can do it at the city level, can you do it at the state level? It's yet to be seen, or at the county level. That's yet to be seen. RT Corp. Now that Governor Hochul has backed down, what do you think will be Mayor Eric Adams' future as mayor? What kind of mayor do you think the state government will try to replace him with? And what kind of mayor do you think that the voters will replace him with, if they replace him? I'll go backwards. So New York is shifting red, and we have yet to see, and it's been shifting red very quickly of late. So we have yet to see what the actual borough politics will be internally. Again, Eric Adams, he did a good campaign. I mean, he passed himself off as a law and order guy, but who nevertheless was still woke and was still going to keep New York a sanctuary city. I don't think that's I think that ship sailed. I don't think that's plausible anymore. So that means, what would he be? Or the next candidate would be, they would be a law and order candidate. Seems to me that's the big thing in our cities. We want law and order in our city. We want to restore our cities to some kind of greatness. And of course, Trump's idea of liberty cities, independent cities, MAGA cities, that would be really cool. We'll see. That would fit the bill. What is he? I think Hochul has backed down because, quite frankly, because I think Mayor Adams has got the goods on Hochul. I think he's got the goods on Letitia James, their Attorney General, and I think he has some political leverage with that. I think he'd be more than happy to share with President Trump all the things he knows about the inner workings of Hochul's administration, Letitia James' administration. I don't know who they would try to they would try to replace him with somebody that they could control when all is said and done, one of their own. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Deonra, TG conservative Walton, Trump using the rules of radicals against the leftists is ironic and fun to watch. Yes, rules for radicals, absolutely. Saul Alinsky, he understood politics is about power. He understood it, and you use power at all levels. You use it at the administrative level, you use it at the bureaucratic level, and you use it at the propaganda level He understood it, and you got it. This is the rules for radicals boomeranging 10x on the liberals. It's beautiful to watch. I love it. Fun to watch, as he put it. That's right. David, thank you for the gift. Can Musk remove the fraudulent Social Security numbers? Yes, they can purge them. Yeah, it's really right now they're trying to get to the bottom of how deep this goes. It looks like it goes very deep, but yes, as I understand it, they can remove them. Again, it's about bringing the tech of DC out of the 12th century into the cybercosm. I mean, we've got tech now where literally, 18-year-olds can walk in with their supercomputers and just go. I mean, with our quantum computers, just go to town and survey 500 million bits of data, resident data, in 5 minutes. I mean, we've got that tech. It's stunning, and yet we have that dungeon, that troll dungeon that in the middle of nowhere, that cave where we keep these archives that still works by, like, I think a pulley elevator. I mean, it's insane, So that's updating the computers, updating the software, updating to modern day cybercosm standards is going to be all part of it, and we'll be able to delete this. And again, we'll be able to audit and look at this now. Trump is changing DC, and there's no going back. So it's really exciting stuff. Francesca, I love that name. How can Trump fix the problem of politicians getting elected to Congress being a money-making business? If that doesn't change, I take it. What do we got there? I'm assuming, the rest would be, if that doesn't change, then right, we're just going to go back. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he has the power. He may, to end insider trading, right? This is where we need Ross Givens to come in and talk about this. I don't know if he has the power to end insider trading. He certainly has the power to end the slush funds, the money laundering. So that's gone. And that's been a huge portion of the power, the money that they've been getting. The bottom line is, it seems to me, it's the insider trading. It's these corporations give them stock tips in a very discreet sort of manner. And this is how Nancy Pelosi has been able to accumulate hundreds of millions of dollars on the stock market, because she both controls, she knows the legislation that's going to get passed that affects big pharma or the military industrial complex or whatever, big ag, whatever, energy. They know that, and also the energy executives and the big ag big farm executives also know what's coming down, and they give them the information ahead of time, and they're able to get at the bottom of the huge wave, and then they cash out at the end and rinse and repeat. So I would say insider trading is the most common form of the business model for a politician, how they walk in with a $96,000 a year salary and they leave there with a net worth of $10 million. It would be gold if Trump could stop that. Certainly Congress isn't going to stop it, but the slush funds are what, I mean, at least if they're doing it that way, they're not profiting off of our tax dollars. At least they're profiting off the market. What made me so upset with USAID is they were dipping their hands into billions of our tax dollars. That's what made me very, very upset. That Trump will clean up. Whether he'll be able to clean up the insider trading, I don't know. We'll have to see. Titus, what are your thoughts on trickle-down economics? Yeah, well, trickle-down, I mean, it's basically supply side. So the idea is you cut taxes for the consumer so they have more money to spend, and you cut regulation for businesses so that so the supply becomes more abundant. So you have more money, more supply drives prices down and stimulates the economy. That's the nature of supply side. So I'm all for it. Domestically, I'm not a fan of it. What a liberal economic order argues is that you apply that to other nations as well in terms of trade, and remove tariffs, because tariffs are a form of regulation, and tariffs drive up prices. So you remove tariffs off the table, no tariffs, so that you just have your total free trader, so that you maximize supply while at the same time minimizing taxes and then driving prices down. I'm not a big fan of that. I think you should be able to have tariffs as President Trump implements them. But as here at home, within domestically, so if you say, okay, we're not going to set up our manufacturing outlet in Mexico, we're going to set it up in Arizona, say, or in Austin or whatever. I think you should leave that industry alone. Let them do their thing. Remove as many regulations, taxes as possible from them, as well as from the consumers, and then open up the supply. The supply explodes, which drives price down, and then we have more money in our wallets, drives price down, and then so supply. I mean, as long as the supply is always able to just overset the demand, your prices are always going to be lowered. So that's how I understand supply trickle down working. And then everybody benefits. Brian, my good friend, brother from another mother. Sorry if you've addressed this already. Just got here. What do you make of the competing Republican budgets in the House and Senate? Do you think Trump will come in and make the folks behave? How do you think it'll shake out? Yeah, I've only read a little bit about it, Brian. So yeah, apparently Senate voted on it last night, which is pretty good. I think they pretty much all fell in line. Everybody except Rand Paul, I think I read. These libertarians, they're always, I don't know. You live by libertarianism, you die by it, I think. But so at first, Trump didn't seem to like it. He endorsed the House version, but then last night apparently he sent out a note saying, "Yeah, this looks good." I think the House version is one package, and the Senate version is two packages. They'll have to go through some kind of reconciliation and so forth. And it looks good. It looks good. It looks like it's going to enshrine pretty much everything Trump wants that he's been passing in the EOs in the law. And it looks like they've foregone a lot of the pork, because there's not much pork to give anymore. USAID has been shredded. So from what I see, Trump seems to be giving it the thumbs up. He gave the Senate bills last night the thumbs up. The Democrat shenanigans, about 10 hours of them, were finally over. I'm sure half the politicians were all drunk. Apparently they keep the booze going quite swimmingly out there. So out over there. So. No, it looks good. It looks good. Nothing stuck out from the quick that I read, other than Rand Paul voted against it. But Trump seems to like the Senate bills, as I understand it. They're two, and then I think we'll see what Mike Johnson does. They pass. I think no, they have not passed theirs. It came out of committee, but the Republicans have yet to pass theirs, and that will be the big test, because since their majority is so small, just a handful. And we'll have to see who is starting to be, the Adam Kinzinger jackasses in there. And we'll have to see if there's, again, they tend to be squeaky wheels just to get a little bit more pork coming into their district, which is that's fine. Just the way politics play. So, just keep an eye on Trump. Trump will be, yes, I like how you put it. He will make people behave, and if they're able to pass this is good stuff. That shows that the Republicans they're reading the room. They're recognizing they've got all the political wind at their back right now, thanks to Trump. And And if it's we talk about this a lot. If it's a people's package, if they see it as the bills as representing the values and interests of the people as over and against, in stark contrast to the values, interests, concerns of this progressive elite political class, it'll be a home run, and it should be very good. Mitchell, it's weird to be a blind conservative. Is it? Are you a blind conservative? Do you mean it metaphorically or physically? MSG, Dr. Steve, do you think Trump will threaten withdrawal from NATO if the idiot UK punks move forward putting troops on the ground in the UK? They move forward, and thank you for the gift. It seems like they backed off from that. Same with Macron. Keir Starmer seems to have backed off from that. There's a lot. It seems to me like there's a lot of virtue signaling, and they're looking for some kind of leverage in these negotiations between Trump and Putin, just completely bypassing the European Union because they're powerless and they're meaningless at this point. The last vestige of the progressive elite. I don't know. And well, even if there are European troops in Ukraine, it will not come under Article 5 of NATO. Trump has made that absolutely clear. And remember, NATO is whatever the United States says it is. We're responsible for basically 90% of its budget and weapons and troops. So NATO is the U.S. So I don't know if what the UK or France does in Ukraine will dissolve NATO. I don't know if that'll be the trigger. It may, especially if Trump says don't do it, and they do it anyway. Then he might say, "Screw you guys, we're done dealing with you. You protect your own continent. We're done. We're not gonna be your policeman. We've got 100,000 troops in Germany, Italy, Spain, and UK. That basically, we are their police force when all said and done. They're international police force. And I think Trump is just done with it. I think he just sees NATO as obsolete. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what it is that finally dissolves NATO. I do think it's on borrowed time. That's the sense I get. NATO is just right now, it's just an encroachment force. It just wants to grow and grow like any other government agency. Doesn't care who it brings in, just bring anybody and everybody in. And then it turns into, like Douglas Murray in his silly article they wrote for the New York Post, it just turns into an extension, a mass extension of the military industrial complex. It gets us involved in stupid wars we shouldn't be getting involved in, and ends up becoming a slush fund for all kinds of special interests. I just think it just should be disbanded. It's done. There's no need. Not in a world of power politics, multipolar power politics. You don't need it anymore. It's just totally irrelevant. But I don't know what exactly will be the event to precipitate that collapse. That might be it. The UK sending troops might be it. Mitchell, I meant to say it's weird being a blind conservative. It seems that most people with disabilities are more, I see, more liberal than and conservative. I didn't know. I was in an, okay, Mitchell, I didn't know you were blind. Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up, because if you do a study on the history of identity politics, the first time it was used in, I think, either the literature or in the media was in the 1960s, referring to people with disabilities and some of the lawsuits that they were bringing. And I forget exactly how they were using it, but it was, in other words, these were lawsuits that were very specific to people with disabilities who felt disenfranchised from being able to be full members of society because society wasn't accommodating them in terms of the infrastructure for them to be able to get around society. So they were saying these were lawsuits that were specific to a particular identity, and they were talking about this. This is a kind of identity politics that was emerging. First people were those who, to use that term, were those with disabilities. So I guess to the extent that identity politics became a hallmark of the left, I guess people with disabilities just moved in that, just naturally in that direction. So that might be the origin of why so many with disabilities are left wing. Franz, good morning, Dr. Steve. Due to jurisdictional or cultural sovereignty, the civilizational age seems to create division by default. Does intelligent design provide the framework to bridge that divide? Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's really neat you bring that up. Turkey, the nation of Turkey, has stopped teaching evolution, as I understand it, in their public schools. They only teach intelligent design, as does obviously Iran, Saudi Arabia. I think most Muslim schools, most sub-Saharan African schools are going to be more intelligent design oriented. I think China, Japan, even Russia to a certain extent, Europe, of course, they're still pretty Darwinian in their science curriculum, but that might all change as we become more civilizationalist. Again, I think you might have asked that question last week. I think as we understand re-mythologization, all ultimate matters, including origins, are always going to be mythologized, meaning they're always going to involve a meta narrative. So the idea that we came from, single-celled organism in the water, and then over time, those multiple variegated organisms started to kind of walk onto land, dry land, and start become mammalian and reptilian and so forth. And then over time, they end up becoming, something like a Homo sapien. And then over time, we started building huts and blah, blah, blah. That's a myth. It's not a myth in the sense it's not true. It may not be true. It's a myth in that it is a meta narrative for us to understand literally, innumerable, hundreds of millions of bits of information, all to cohere and come together in a single solid picture. This goes back to what Maximilian said. The idealist argues that we can only understand the world in relation to larger archetypal images in our minds that end up making sense, like graphs, for example, or pictures literally in our minds to make sense of all this data. Otherwise, the data is just a bunch of nonsense. It doesn't, it becomes unintelligible. It's only when you're able to it's only when you take all these letters and put them into intelligible words that they start making sense, that they become code, and then they become communicative. And until something is communicative, it's just simply not intelligible. So I think we're understanding that Darwinism is itself a myth, every bit as much as Genesis, every bit as much as the beginning of the origin story of the Quran, every bit as much as the Analects of Confucius. They are myths, and myths are the meta-narratives by which we make sense of life. And the moment we recognize that, then we can have these wonderful dialogues of how does scientific myths relate to these more ancient, archaic religious myths, and how does this creation myth relate to this and what are its overlaps? Where does it diverge? What does it mean? What does the mythology mean? Look, so for example, religious mythology starts from above and comes down below. Darwinian mythology starts from below and comes from above, or goes to the above. So that's why you get this notion that Darwinianism is related to this unbridled, unstoppable progressivism, right? It's just there's this dynamic that's always getting more and more progressive. But in ancient myth, life is a bit more cyclical than that, and this unbridled progression is actually evil. It can be very evil, especially if it's in the immanent realm, because that's Babel. That's where you get from. You build from the ground up, going upwards. That's Babel. So there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with the Darwinian structure, you say. Not entirely, but somewhere in there. So I think you're right. I think it could be a very interesting point of commonality collegiality and corroboration in the realm of intelligent design. So it'd be very interesting to see. Travis, thank you for the gift, Travis. Very kind of you. Thank you for that. Travis again. Thank you, Travis, for both. Dr. Steve, I've been looking recent immigration trends to Europe, and it has me concerned. Do you believe that the native populations of Europe will be a minority in the future? If they don't change, they will, because it's not just simply the open border, but you're bringing in populations that also have high degree of fertility. Not all of them, but you take for example Pakistani Muslims in Britain. The name Muhammad has just surpassed Mary as the most common name in Britain. You are seeing some differences to that. So Algerian Muslims, as I understand it, in France do tend to intermarry. And when you intermarry, you tend to get assimilated to the larger dominant culture. But no, I think so. If Europe does not, and it's going to be parts of Europe, obviously Hungary is relatively safe, Poland is safe, Czech Republic is safe, Slovakia is safe. I mean, they've closed their borders to the mass migration. But if England isn't careful, of France, Italy, I mean, if their own indigenous fertility is at record lows, far below the 2.1 replacement level, and if you're bringing in populations from Northern Africa and Middle East that have very high replacement levels, 3, maybe even 4 kids per couple, I mean, demographics is destiny. There's no way around it. Yes, you're going to become a minority. So they have to turn that around very quickly. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, is there any way constitutionally Trump can remove all the Clinton, Obama, and Pedo Joe activist judges? I notice all the ridiculous unconstitutional orders attempting to stop President Trump are all Clinton, Obama, and Pedo Joe judges. Good question. I don't know the answer to that, Rock Dog. As I understand it, the president's authority over the judiciary is limited to appointment. And then once appointed, judiciary has its own sphere of sovereignty, as it were. As I understand it, the Supreme Court can smack down some of these rogue federal judges for sure. And some of the state legislatures have some power over them. Possibly Congress has some power, but I don't know the inner workings of the jurisdiction and to what extent federally appointed judges for life can be held accountable, or if they could. I mean, as I understand it, Congress can impeach a federal judge, but that takes, if I recall, a 2/3 vote in the Senate, just like with a president of conviction. That's just not going to happen. It's just not. I mean, it's not our politics today. William, assume Canada joins as 51st state. Realistically, would they be admitted as separate states or as one bigly state with 2 senators, 80 House seats representing for 40 million people? This is crucial for a geopolitical standpoint because the USA doesn't need another California, Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts roll into one. Thank you, Will. Yeah, I know what you mean, Will. And I mean, so bottom line, what President Trump is saying is, look, Canada, you've been loafing and weaseling off of the United States long enough. Okay, what's he saying? And I think you guys all know it. You don't pay anywhere what you need to pay for your own military. You tariff us while we don't tariff you. And when all said and done, when we add it all up, you're making $200 to $300 billion off of us when all said and done. And those days are over. You're not making nearly $500 billion off of us anymore. You got to pay for your own military. you're gonna have to we're gonna do reciprocal tariffs on you, so you're gonna actually have to pay to be a part of our economy from now on. Or you could just become the 51st state, and we'll just assimilate you into this, and then boom, we're good to go. Well, you're not taking advantage of us anymore. There's no longer the tariffs anymore. We'll take care of all the military for you again. And again, this is just Trump thinking in terms of civilizational state, right? The same thing with Greenland and so forth. But I think it's all part of the process of negotiating, getting that $300 billion deficit that we have with Canada wiped out. That's all it is. And Trump, how does he do it? Art of the deal. You start with an outrageous offer, and you push it and push it and push it until the other side goes, okay, all right, we'll get rid, we'll give you what you want. What did you want originally? Okay, we'll give it to you. That kind of, it's the art of the deal. So I'm with you. I don't think you have to worry about another. Now, keep in mind, Canada's about to go super, super, super conservative right now with Pierre Poilievre. But in the past 10 years, and the Conservative Party, but in the past 10 years, yes, they've gone super liberal. And their judiciary is insane. Although if they were a 51st state, they'd have to reform their entire judiciary branch, or we'd get rid of their Supreme Court, which is a bunch of nuts, left-wing nuts. So, but yes, yeah, Canada has a left-wing streak that would have to be dealt with. Not Alberta. Alberta is often called the Texas of Canada. But yes, certainly a lot of it. No, we do not want another California or Illinois. James, they should have listened and taken the buyout and sell their houses. Call it their loss. Yeah. You're talking about Northern Virginia. Yeah, I'm with you, James. Absolutely. They should have taken the buyout. It's going to be a long, hard lesson. James, we need a law barring all these foreign-born judges who don't understand the law. I think so. Sounds good, James. Sounds good. MSG, Dr. Steve, do you think Trump will threaten withdrawal from NATO at the idiot UK punks? Oh, we already did this. Come on now. Come on, Mike. William, the true story about Clinton's most likely will involve sex lies and deletions. If you could live to tell the story. I love it. Well, if you could live to tell the story. I did not Epstein myself. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, if the audit of Fort Knox shows the gold is gone, would that open a criminal investigation such a treasonous act? Oh my, Rock Dog, you're saving all your melted butter for the indictment phase. Yes, I think there will be definitely some indictments if gold is found missing from Fort Knox. Janice, Dr. Steve, would you please do an education class on the reciprocal tariffs work along with the fair tax bill they're bringing up? It sounds really good to me, if I understand it correctly. Thank you. Love shutting down the IRS. Yes, Janice, we'll have to do. That sounds good. Again, historically speaking, the federal government was not allowed to tax citizens directly. So the very fact that we think the IRS is an indispensable part of our nation just shows how much the powers that be have been successful in reprogramming the way we think about our federal government. Also, the tax code has been used by the Democrats to play class warfare and constantly putting the Republicans on the defensive in terms of defending the rich and so forth, even though billionaires backed Kamala 2-1. So if we could remove the way the Democrats use resentment politics via our tax code and the IRS, and sort of this constitutional ignorance, this historical amnesia we have, in terms of the federal government should not be taxing us directly. If we can remove those two things, I think that'd be very, very healthy for the future of the culture of our nation. And so we could talk about how tariffs fit into the like. But again, it's not just tariffs, it's selling land. The federal government makes money selling land. And now the federal government also makes money with T-bills, where because we're the reserve currency, when governments use dollars to buy, say, oil or whatever on the international market, they don't want to take their surplus dollars and retranslate it into their indigenous currency because they end up losing money in the exchange rate. So instead, what they do is they just take that reserve dollars and then they invest it in treasury bills and then make a yield, and they get a return. And so that's how we get trillions and trillions of dollars into the federal bank account, as it were, by virtue of other countries buying up our debt. Now we have to be careful with that because we don't want to be a debtor nation. But the point is that the government can make trillions of dollars without a single dime coming from the U.S. taxpayer. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, your opinion, how quickly can we transition to a consumption tax tariff funding of the U.S. government versus income tax? It could be very quick. They could do it very, very quickly, as I understand it. They'll want to get the tariffs all in place. That's what they're doing. I know Trump has floated a consumption tax. That would be neat. Again, you wouldn't really need an IRS for that. Because you'd be paying the tax through a business. So it's not well, I guess it's still internal revenue since you'd be dealing with businesses. But it would be a business's problem, not yours. I don't know how long it would take. I don't think it would take that long. Certainly within a year. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, how can we force mandatory voter ID on all locations of states? Does the Constitution allow states to decide voter ID under time, place, and manner? Section of the Constitution. So that will be hashed out. But I think I think it would come under the Justice Department. So time, place, manner you're not allowed to exclude certain citizens from voting, because of race or ethnicity or something like that. So if the government can show that the absence of voter ID is a civil rights issue for those states that require it, I think we're good to go. I think we can pass a voter ID requirement based on based on its absence being a violation of civil rights. It's basically how Ken Paxton was more or less arguing the 2020 election, where he came out and basically said these states, that were just this absolute mess in counting, are violating the civil rights of Texans because they're following the law, but you guys aren't, and that affects who we have to live under over the next 4 years. So it'll be something akin to that, I think. Vlad the Impaler, also known as SC. What do you think are the odds of George Maney hitting Canada, Europe, Japan, and the individual states? Don't know. I don't know. I've actually seen that on someone else's account. Doge Mania. There you go. I've actually seen that on Doge. I've seen an international, I think it was Alexander Dugin, arguing we need a Doge in Russia. We need a Doge throughout Europe. This is great. This is good. This is the people holding their leaders accountable. If Doge is really successful, I think this is going to continue to, this is going to have ripple effects. Just like in many ways, the way I thought Trump was a ripple effect of Brexit back on June 23rd, 2016. Courage is contagious. So I do think this is going to be, this is going to continue to show enormous ramifications for other nations around the world. I do. I don't know to what extent, but certainly the leaders of other countries and their bureaucracies are on notice. Barbara, Dr. Steve, do you know if it's possible for President Trump's administration to seek restitution for the foreign leaders who purposely released their prisoners in America? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if he would. He could get them. I think he can hit them. Certainly, he was doing that with Colombia. He could hit them with tariffs. He can hit them with punitive measures. Make them pay for it with tariffs. Something akin to that. But I don't know if it's possible for direct restitution. It would be done through putting in punitive measures. Janice, Steve, how do we get DOGE in our local and state government? Oh, that's a great, sign a petition. Put it on a referendum. We want to audit our own state governments. Now, in fairness, Ron DeSantis was doing that in Florida. It's part of the reason why Florida ended up becoming so efficient. But that would be great. I'd love to see something in Texas. Start with the red states. Again, let the red states take the lead. But wouldn't that be awesome? Try to get a DOGE in California, New York, and Illinois. Have the patriots rise up and have these elites say, no, you don't. We audit you. You don't get to audit us. This is our government, not yours. That'd be great. That's awesome, Janice. Quark Bender, President Donald Trump will speak at the Conservative Political Action Conference on Saturday. What would you like to hear from President Trump? What a great question. What would I like to hear from President Trump? I'd love to hear he's going to abolish the IRS and the Department of Education. I'd love to hear that. If that were like, yep, that's it. That's going to be, I'm not resting. I'm not leaving until those two departments are gone. That I would love to hear that. But I just love hearing him celebrate this moment of life that we're in. This moment of life for himself. Again, he knows it. He should be 6 feet under right now. Just the miracle that we're all experiencing. How his rising to his feet, telling us to fight, fight, fight is now being enacted every single day in Washington. Like I said, 35%, according to one website that's tracking the goals of Project 2025, 35% of Project 2025 has already been implemented. 35% has already been implemented. And we're only 30 days into the administration. It's absolutely unbelievable. So there you go. Dawn Dunn, state of Jefferson here in Northern California, left coast, state of Jefferson, baby. That's some real secession there. Yeah. No, I'm with you with Northern Cal. I spent a lot of time in Northern California. My mom's from there. Well, the Bay Area. So, state of Jefferson. That's right. I wonder if that's going to get any more legs to it. I know, like, Texas is pretty much dead right now, just because of the fervor of, Texas basically took over D.C. more or less. But yeah, you're still suffering over there in California. So it'd be interesting if you can have like a breakaway, Northern California breakaway, Shasta County and so forth. You guys could break away from Sacramento. Would be awesome. Thomas, I was born in Germany and became a U.S. citizen in 2016. Awesome. Welcome. To vote for President Trump. Oh, even more, Thomas. Welcome. I'm proud to be a U.S. citizen. Pray the IRS will be abolished. Yes, Thomas. Isn't that great? Yeah, where were you? Let us know, where were you from in Germany? Was it Munich, Frankfurt, Western, Eastern? I love Germany. I mean, again, Germany is, I'm so excited that both Elon and the White House as a whole have put their support behind Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD. It would be really interesting to see what happens in your old homeland this Sunday in the elections. And God bless you. It's awesome to have you here. And I really want to see Germany rise again as a vibrant, beautiful, flourishing civilization. My favorite composers, like Bach is from Germany. Authors and so forth, and theorists, and it's just it's been such a cultural powerhouse over the centuries. And I just think liberal globalism is doing everything it can to empty Germany of all of its vibrancy and cultural vibrancy. Hopefully we'll see that again. I think we will. I think it's going to happen. Let's see, Dova Buji, is that trickle-down economics works? I don't know why these Jonathan testicle Dems don't accept that. It's so tiring trying to argue with the left. I know it is. But they're not, the left isn't arguing from reality. Just look at how you put that there. Trickle-down economics works. Of course it does. It's just basic economics. Increase the supply while you increase spending power, and you're going to lower the prices by definition. They're not interested in reality. You know that MSNBC viewers and CNN viewers want to be lied to. They actually don't. They like the fact that they fully approve of their news anchors lying as long as it makes their political opponents look bad. It's the only way someone with the inaccuracy records of CNN and MSNBC could possibly still be on air. It's the only way. Now, they've lost a lot. They've lost a lot of their audience. They felt very betrayed. And I guess those are the ones that do still want to live at least somewhat in reality. Or maybe not even that. They just feel so betrayed that they were led to believe that Kamala was going to win. And, that Ann Seltzer poll from the Des Moines Register. That was, that Kamala was going to win a state that she lost by double digits. I think most of the leftists that I talk to, they really have a hard time moving out of a very fabricated, very choreographed sense of reality where they're always the hero, where that anyone else who doesn't hold their belief systems are always have a low IQ, they're knuckle draggers, they're racist, they're bigots, they're evil. They have a very hard time breaking out of that. And you have to go very slow. But one way to do it, one way that I like to do it is I like Alonda Newhouse's concept of brokenists versus status quoists. That's kind of a neat, I've found very fruitful talking to leftists on that, where I tell them, like, forget left, right, forget, the vertical people versus political class. There are people who believe that our system is broken. And guess what? It turns out to be, it's pretty much most everybody. Bernie Sanders thinks our system is broken. Elizabeth Warren thinks our system is broken. Everybody thinks the system is broken. So start there. That's a really good. Don't you agree? Economically, we're broken. We're broke. Our immigration system's broken. It's all broken, right? Everyone could kind of agree to that. Our politics is broken. Our media is broken. Whatever. Everyone. But what's the solution? That's where you start to see the two groups form. There are those who really believe it's broken beyond repair, and therefore you need an outside force to come in and fix it. And those are the people who are attracted to Trump and Musk and Vivek, and JD, because they're seen as outsiders. JD was a senator for only a couple of years. They're seen as outsiders. They're not seen as evil and racist and bigot and male and white. No. Those categories, they're seen as outsiders who have some business success. Certainly Elon has, who could come in and try and bring that success to bear on a broken system. But then there are those like Elizabeth Warren who are status quoists, who believe that while things are broken, there's still enough integrity in the system for it to fix itself. And so we still need the status quo. We still need the same old politicians in place. They just need to kind of figure it out. And there's enough integrity within them to figure it all out. Just got to give them enough time. You just got to find another plan or something like that. And they can, and that's, I found a lot of fruitful discussion from that vantage point. When I say to them, I'm a brokenist, and most people in the country right now are brokenness, and they want to try something. They want to apply a little bit of, radical therapy here, because they just, and I'm sorry, you may still have faith in the status quo, but I'm sorry, because things are broken, you're not entitled to that. A lot of people are going to come around and say, you know what, I just don't buy it anymore. We need somebody from the outside. I think it's broken beyond repair. So that might be a way to start. And then you could turn around and say, now, what kind of economics do these guys like Elon Musk tend to practice, so that they can get this kind of success? And what are they looking at? And, that kind of, and then you could start trying to implement a supply side vision into that as a way of fixing, but it takes a while. Great, Dova. Travis, Dr. Steve, what are your thoughts on the AfD's chances in the upcoming German election on Sunday? All right, ready? Prediction. And we have a interview with Konstantin von Hofmeister from Frankfurt. So hopefully that should be up sometime. Do you know when that's going up, Micah? Can you let me know? It may have already gone up. It may have gone up yesterday, and I just didn't know. I was gone at a meeting all day yesterday. But I agree with him. I think we'll see CDU, the Christian Democrat Union, Angela Merkel's whole party. They'll come in first. The so-called center right. They're not right. There's not a. Micah. So Micah said tomorrow we have to have it before Sunday. Put it up today. Put it up tonight. Yeah, make a note of that. That needs to go up tonight. Or I guess at the very latest Saturday, because the election's Sunday. So CDU will come in, I'm hoping, at under 30. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm gonna clock him in at 29, which is huge, because they used to come in at over 40. Right? They were the undisputed heavyweight champions of German politics post World War II. Now I'd love to see him down at around 29. AfD I got at 22. They'll come in at 20. They will be officially the second most popular party in Germany. And then SPD probably around 15. Greens probably around 9. And then they'll have a couple of other left-wing lunatic parties in single digits. So that's my predict. CDU at 29. That's a little bit hopeful. If they hit 30, I will not be surprised. CDU at 29. AfD at 22. SPD 15. Maybe 12. That would be lovely. But 15. Greens at 9. That's kind of where I see it. Now, what are they going to do? I guess, in the end, CDU said they'll probably work with SPD. Even though SPD's, that's their social democrats, their center left, even though Olaf Scholz and the SPD are basically getting voted out. So why would they go into a coalition with them? They are talking about entering in a coalition with the Greens. Think about that. Center right with Greta Thunberg. It's just insane. All so that they can maintain this firewall, what they called it. J.D. Vance called it out last Friday in his speech at the Munich Security Council. Also, they can box the AfD out of power. It's exactly what Sweden was doing to the Sweden Democrats. It's exactly what Italy was doing to Lega for the longest time. Now Brothers of Italy, they've taken over. So anyway, that's what I see, Travis. We'll see. Conga, you don't understand. Trudeau wants the tariffs to destroy Canada as per the WEF agenda. He has nothing to fix the borders. He's done nothing to fix the borders so far. Well, no, if he hasn't done anything to fix the borders so far, then Trump will take whatever punitive measures he needs to take. He's supposed to dedicate 10,000 troops to Canada's side of northern border, and even create a fentanyl czar to be able to create the infrastructure to monitor. Oh, good. Yeah. I'm sorry. Micah just said the Hofmeister video is going up tomorrow. Confirmed. It will be the second video. So yeah, you guys, that'll give us that'll give you an in-depth take on the German elections this Sunday. Very, very important elections. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Conga. I mean, yeah, but his time in Canadian politics is limited. He'll be gone. When's your election? Isn't it a couple of months? And Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are poised to just absolutely crush it. Tom, keep telling the truth. Thank you, Tom, and thank you for the gift. Thank you, guys. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Keep in touch. We'll make sure to see what's going on. The elections in Germany. We'll report on them on a Monday for sure. Just amazing stuff happening. We'll report on Trump's seatback speech tomorrow, Saturday. Incredible stuff. So stay tuned to the show all weekend. Check out my interview with Konstantin von Hofmeister. Also, I have an interview with the one and only Alexander Dugin. Any note on that? When is that going up, Micah? The interview with Alexander Dugin? That's a huge one. That was amazing. I mean, that, talk about the architect of the civilizationalist world order. But that should be up next week. I believe. Why do you guys wait so freaking long? Oh, my team. All right. We'll see. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Love you. God bless.